Good morning. Can I kindly invite you to take the seat? Ragazzi attenti, guarda. So be careful, don't get... Good morning, let's start again. Welcome to the second day of this Festival of Climate Innovation and Climate Services. For those who were with us yesterday, I hope you have had a nice evening and you enjoyed the social dinner and you are fresh back to continue our discussion. For those who join us today, my name is Jaro Misiak. I'm from Euro-Mediterranean Center on Climate Change, and I'm delighted to be the moderator of this session. Today we will continue with the two topics, the challenges, urban adaptation challenges. So we will be talking about the specific requirements on climate services, the climate knowledge innovation that is put on the table, developed in the urban context as the cities adapt to climate change. And in the afternoon, we will be addressing water challenges, having too little, too much water. So all the water-related challenges to the climate adaptation, which is probably a bulk of all adaptation challenges somehow relate to water. We have a very nice panel and distinguished speakers for this first session. So I will introduce them in a second. So we will have first a panel of three keynote speakers, and afterwards, again like yesterday, we will have pitch presentation that introduce the topic that will be discussed on the World Cafe tables. So today, the first panel starts with Simone Nardicchia, who is from the city of Milan. Then we will continue with Nives Peña from Tecnalia. And we will wrap up this first session with Elena Garrido Martinez from the city of Logroño. And we will be looking into what kind of climate services are put in place, are developed, and how those climate services might contribute to developing a vision, medium to long-term vision of urban transformation towards resilience and systemic adaptation. I think I have been asked to show also some slides as a wrap-up of yesterday. We have the result of the scribers. I don't know whether you noticed, but there is somebody who is taking visual notes of our discussion. They will appear on the screen in a moment. So this is just giving you a taste of how the discussion will be summarized, is being summarized by the people, right? So this is beautiful. It's cartoon type of summary of the topics that we have been talking about. We might also run a quiz before the end of the festival. So we might focus on certain element of those visual storylines. And I will ask you which topic or which talk this refers to or has been inspired by, right? So for example, the pyramid, right? You might remember this is Philip Tulken's talk, the composition of the mission adaptation. But I challenge you on the gondola, right? I would like to know which talk the gondola refers to. Yeah, there is a prize, right? A bottle of wine for those that need to be motivated. Right, so without any further ado, I would invite Simone to take the floor and tell us about how Milan City is adapting to climate change and what kind of climate services you are using for that purpose. Yep.
Okay. Hi. Good morning, buongiorno. Buongiorno. I'm representing the Urban Resilience Department of the City of Milan today. Okay, sorry for the presentation. The Urban Resilience, I'm a project manager of Reach Out Horizon 2020 project. I work with Nieves and Elena and Yaro also. And so the Urban Resilience Department was established in 2017 thanks to the participation of the Milano in 100 Resilient Cities project. The department, as you can see, operates as part of a more extensive department, that is the Green and Environment Department. The department operates, the department Green Environment includes other units, as you can see, Water Resource and Waste Management, Green Area, Climate and Energy, and the Urban Resilience Department. In this structure, the Urban Resilience Department is responsible for developing and coordinating all of the activity connected to resilience in order to drive a risk-informed and decision-making process at the municipal level. Having an integrated office within the administrative structure was a crucial step in recognizing and empowering resilience, which in many cases struggles to find its place in the local administration system because of its cross-cutting nature. Over the years, the department has developed a working method to ensure the integration of disaster risk reduction into the city's plan. It consists of an interactive process that develops around 5 steps. The first phase is the setting of a vision, starting with the city's strategic plans and policy documents. The department defines its long-term ambition, that is what is the change it intends to generate within the municipal structure. To define its vision, the department refers to documents, to the main documents as the city master plan, and but the most important document is the Piano Aria e Clima, the Air and Climate Plan, that is an integrated action plan that combine mitigation, adaptation, and air quality measure in order to improve resilience and sustainability. The goal is 2050 with midterm results that are foreseen for 2030, and so the plan provides 5 main pillars. Inclusive Milano, Slow Milano, Positive Energy Milano, and Cool Milano, that is addressed to the adaptation, and Informed Citizen. Today we will focus more about 4 and 5, Cool Milano and Informed Citizen. Every pillar has a specific objective, and in the case of Cool Milano, a city that cools down, we have 3 specific objectives. That one is related to the analysis of data and climate, particularly is the local climate profile of the city. And then we have the second objective is addressed to the urban heat island effect and the heat waves. And then we have the last specific objective in this case, that is related to to improve the surface drainage system in the city. So the next step is the goal to All of these documents are critical in defining the strategic goals that the department must achieve to realize the vision. Here we come to the second phase of the resilient method. To be able to mainstream resilience at the municipal level, we identified some strategic objectives. 4 strategic objectives. Reduce climate risk through the implementation of adaptation actions, introduce new climate risk into already existing risk management plans, implement climate change awareness activity both within and outside the administration, and promote and coordinate the decarbonization project. The next phase, called research and innovation, distinguish our department and allow us to introduce new methods of work in the public administration to improve knowledge in the public administration of the causes and impact of climate change and to promote the implementation of resilience. In particular, the participation in international projects allows us to include in the team experts and tools that help us ensure a certain degree of innovation and multidisciplinary. Currently, the department has 10 European undergoing projects that allow it to collect and analyze new data and update risk assessment as Reach Out project, do thematic research, and experiment innovative solutions to the climate crisis. Through this analysis, we can promote risk-informed urban planning and decision-making processes, and therefore update the strategic documents that generate the vision of the department and create new resilience guidelines. All the illustrated action cannot be implemented without the cooperation of other departments of the municipality and the support of citizens. For this reason, the department works on developing participatory co-design and implementation processes targeting 2 types of actors: the internal engagement through other departments and citizen engagement activities. Co-design processes with other departments take different form depending on the target project of initiative. This happened because through the participation in local and international projects, the department provide tools and resources to conduct internal workshops. In this case, we have an example of internal project. We involve other city department as urban regeneration, civil protection, and energy, and also some external stakeholders that are involved in some specific issues for the city. So the internal workshop and co-design processes is to identifying and resolving the implementation of resilience, mapping ongoing activities that can be related to resilience, offer a new resilient perspective on existing plan and project, and prioritize areas exposed to high climate risk for urban development. In December, we organized a meeting with ARPA Lombardia about local climate profile, because is foreseen by the Iron Climate Plan, this study, and is divided by 2 phases. The first is the study of climate, the historical climate condition, and then we have the future projection by 2021-2050. I just report here some information reached by the first version of the Iron Climate, the local climate profile. We have increased the temperature, minimum and maximum, and also the degree. The second is related to the rain. So especially in the summertime, we will have probably less rainy day, and of course that is not easy to manage. And So the other, this is an example of internal engagement workshop, but we also organized a meeting last month with Tecnalia in order to assess the land surface temperature that will provide information for the paving program. So we are working with several tools and projects in order to have data and tools that can help us to define the solution. And then, and this is the last slide, we have an important part that is included in the Iron Climate Plan is the citizen engagement. The main important initiative of the Municipality of Milano is the Permanent Citizen Assembly. That is a civic participation body involving citizens in activities and workshops related to municipal climate change policies, air quality, and ecological transition. The assembly is designed to give citizens a voice on climate policies and involve them in developing innovative solutions. And then we have a tool by Reach Out that is the climate story. And then we have another tool developed by another project that is the App City Campaigner. So this is how we are trying to building resilience in our city. Thank you.
Thank you, Simone. So you might have noticed Milan is part of the Rockefeller Resilient City Network that was translated now to the Resilient City Network. So they have huge experience in building resilience. They are connected to European Research Project, and they have a very specific plans what to do, including the citizen assembly, right? It's very unusual to see that also at the city level. Thank you very much, Simone. Now, I would like kindly ask Lenives to give us a framework for organizing this visionary pathway at the urban level. Lenives?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. You have 10 minutes.
Yes. All of us have 10 minutes, but nobody is strict to the 10 minutes, so I will really try to be just... First of all, thank you very much for being here and for inviting us to present the Reach Out project. I think that is really important, this type of events, because as Philip was also from the European Commission was saying yesterday, I think that the objective of all this project is really accelerate the resilience of regions and cities in Europe. So I think that is really important that we all share what we are doing, but we also share our questions, our challenges, because at the end we are in the same ship, and it's really important to be here and share this with us. So as Jaru was saying, I work in Tecnalia in the climate change adaptation team, and I'm here to present you what we have been working and doing in Reach Out project and what is the vision of Reach Out. So I think that this figure represents in a very visual way what the Reach Out project aims to do, and it's really somehow build the bridge so that the knowledge, the climate knowledge, can really reach out regions and cities, so that policymakers and decision makers can really use this information in a way that can support them to build really resilient to climate change. So how we do this in Reach Out, because what happened is that, as yesterday was also explaining by Carlo and also Paco, there are plenty of data sets, plenty of tools, plenty of sources that somehow don't really reach these policymakers. So in Reach Out, we decided to center into 7 city hubs that have a diverse portfolio of climate vulnerabilities and different climate vulnerabilities, different climate adaptation needs, so that they somehow represent this diversity that can allow us to see which are the different ways of how this climate information can be tailored to those needs. So they represent, for us, it was, this was I think that the really added value of Reach Out. And we have been working in Reach Out with a kind of co-creation framework so that we are able to co-design, co-produce, and co-deliver this different customization of services to the different city hubs. So these are just some examples. One of them was indeed showed by Simone, which is the thermal assessment tool that try not only show what are how the temperature is increasing, but how are the different risk levels with regard to the heat extremes events. So we characterize the heat waves in a way that how will evolve the intensity, the frequency, and the duration of these heat waves in the future, which is really what is impacting the health of citizens. There are other examples, as the heat maps also pointed by Simone, but there are plenty of tools that have been customized for the cities in order to visualize how different flash floods, river floods, pluvial floods, and coastal floods impact the different cities. Some of these tools need not only European level data, but also localized data, so that we can measure the impacts in these cities and be able also to see how different adaptation measures can minimize these impacts in the buildings, in the infrastructure, or even in the citizens themselves. Another Reach Out outcome that I think that it has been really interesting. It's the first time in my life that I have been working with climate stories. And at the beginning, I was thinking that, wow, climate stories is just tell someone the story of what we are doing. And I have realized how difficult it is to create really inspirational climate stories. And for me, climate stories have been not only an outcome, it has been really the process to really involve municipality in a way that they need to understand what the outcomes of the tools are providing them, so that they need to also interiorize this, to provide and communicate this to the citizens. And in this process is what you really learn on climate data and on the impacts of climate data. And you really realize that there are somehow a possibility to act today and do things differently and change somehow our planet. And just very, very quickly, the Reach Out adaptation framework is based on this AAA approach that is just based on analysis, ambition, and action. So we know that this is rushed adaptation cycle, but in Reach Out we think that sometimes simple is better. So what we have done is organized the different tools available from the different research partners in these different phases of the adaptation cycle, so that cities can go and search on the tool that is appropriate for make a risk assessment or do an identification on adaptation options, prioritize them, or also other tools for creating ambition, which is, for us, it has been indeed during the first years, we were like selecting tools for risk analysis, for action, but there are very little tools to support cities on create these visions. So I think that this is another important learning point. And just to finish, I also wanted to share with you just 4 key challenges that I somehow is like the key learnings that I would like to share with you, which is one is related to the data availability and integration. How important is to have not only the different levels of data, we have like different levels of data, but there is also important to take into account like the different business intelligence, how we can combine and merge the data that is available at national, European level with data that sometimes is owned by the municipality. And some of the data, it may be even private, for example, regarding to the social vulnerability, there may be some data that it cannot be public. So how we have to integrate this in a coherent and usable way. The other thing I think that was also mentioned yesterday from one of the speakers is mainstreaming adaptation. Mainstreaming adaptation for us, it means to take into account other priorities of the cities that is linked to the mobility, to the energy, to the social justice, to the even mitigation, but also sustainable development. And I think that this is one of the key elements for us, so that really adaptation is an excuse and an opportunity to work in these other priorities of the cities. The last point, which is linked to the ambition, is how we can support cities in create these different ways to achieve their goals. And there is not a unique way. So how we can support them in answer this question: what to use and when to do it. Not too early, but not too late. And just the last one is regarding governance and communication. We have realized the importance of this. And with this, I think that is enough from my side. Thank you very much. And if you have any question, we will be also outside in the market to show you the climate stories, the tools, and everything. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Eleni. That was excellent. I think the bridge that you showed on the second slide is a good candidate for the scriber, right? As to picking up on that. You have seen that technology is really on the cutting edge of advancing the climate services fields and helping the cities and regional communities to adapt. And it's interesting to see that the AAA framework has combined both the risk assessment with the adaptation pathway planning. So this is relatively new. It's similar to the mission adaptation, but it's split into two different projects, which I like Reach Out has understood that it goes hand in hand. Now I would like to invite Elena. Elena is implementing those in Logroño City, and she's dealing exactly with those type of challenges when to convince the colleagues and align the planning processes. So Elena, we're looking forward to your talk. Thank you.
Hello. Thank you very much for inviting me to be here. In line with my colleagues said regarding the adaptation process, I would like to explain the climate narrative of Logroño because we understand this climate narrative as a process of evolution and changes, that we need a process of facing different challenges in terms of adaptation, and of course the use of different climate services tailored with the risk that we have identified, and of course intensive process of information and communication. We start the process taking into account not just the risk that most affected our city, but also the key impact that we have detected according to these relevant climatic drivers. In the case of our city, we identify heat, floods, and drought as a main risk to be addressed. And thanks to the project to Reach Out and some different tools, we identify this impact. In the case of heat, for example, we define an impact change diagrams to visualize impacts linked, for example, to heat waves. When we have, for example, the increase of water consumption or increase of mortality. And mainly, the main goal here in this stage is to get in realistic and more specific urban adaptation solutions. And one example of this process of identification of the different adaptation risks and evaluation of the impacts, we have the SICA for the city of Logroño. When we identify these risks linked to the most relevant sectors in our city, because we identify all these vulnerabilities linked to agriculture, tourism, or healthy, for example. Another important challenge to address for us was the definition of a specific policy framework when we have to make an intensive reflection on what are the main priorities to align with the different policies and measures to be implemented in our city. Because we need, in this process, we need to convince the policymakers about what are the main benefit and co-benefit of develop these adaptation strategies. In the case of the definition of our urban agenda that is aligned with the 17 SDGs of the Agenda 2030, it was made a very intensive work of aligning the different projects and measures to be implemented in line with the 3 key areas identified in the urban agenda, such as climate, city, and people. And all the projects to be implemented was included in this area. Here, the main goal that we identify is getting to build a new city models. In line with this, we have the next step to be taken. When we have identified the challenges in terms of adaptation, what are the next steps to be followed? So we have the climate services. As Nieves said, we have to tailor all these climate services in line with the risk that we have identified in a first stage. Through the project Reach Out, we were able to use different climate services in line with the risk we identify. So for heat, we use the thermal assessment tool. In the case of floods, we use the pluvial flood hazard tool and the social vulnerability tools that help us in a transversal way to identify the most vulnerability areas in terms of socio-economical index. In the case of the thermal assessment tool, we started the project identify the key impact thanks to the chain diagrams impact, and then we define different outcomes such as gain a visual summary of the climate change impact by sectors. We also identify the frequency and intensity of the heat waves, past and future. Also the different projections about adaptations, taking into account the different scenarios of climate change. Also, we assess the surface urban heat island in the different areas of our city, and also we identify the vulnerabilities areas to address different measures. And finally, these main outcomes was integrated into the different measures for our city that help us to refine the programs and the strategies to be followed, such as planning the different plantings of trees, for example, or the definition of the different regulations in terms of building, or also the different protocols to be followed in case of water needs or different warnings in our city. One of the last stage in this process, and maybe is one of the most relevant, is communication and dissemination. We have been working in the different challenges, we have used the different climate services, and then we have to address how to involve citizens, how to communicate the key impact of adaptations, or how to explain in a more easy way what are the main strategies or measures to be implemented in our cities. So in this point, it's really important to create a participative climate governance. That means that citizens are in the center of the strategies, and cities have to do an extra effort to mobilize, motivate, and involve citizens and stakeholders. Because finally we understand that adaptation is a process that requires change in different levels. And how we can do that, how we can involve citizens, how we can motivate the change. So we need to define ambitious strategies and focus on dissemination and communication, the specific messages. So in the case of Logroño, we built our climate story, focus on, so in a more easy way and in a more friendly way, the different process that we have followed in terms of using climate services and how we have identified the impact for the city of Logroño. And we gather all this information in a climate story easy to understand for citizens and for stakeholders. In this case, the climate story tried to show through different personas how normal people in our city are experimenting the impact of the climate change. In this case, we use the heat as a central point to take into account, and in parallel we want to show the researching and the use of the different tools that we have developed during the Richard project. So we see this is a very key point to take into account how to generate a sense of urgency in the citizens. Also is a very effective way to raise awareness about adaptation and climate change means. And of course, is, as Nieves said, is a perfect excuse to collaborate, to work together for co-create a climate story that help us to everyone to understand what we want to do in terms of adaptation. And finally, I would like to show you some key learnings that we have got in this process, and that means as a main goal, join an approach for taking the different climate measures. So it's crucial to build an adaptation teams where everyone was involved in the process of co-creation and co-definition of the priorities in terms of adaptation. So we need to get a real commitment in this process. Of course, it's really important for avoid the loss of information to build a reliable data set where we were able to identify the critical data to use with the climate services. That means include urban data, climate data, and the different index to be used. And of course, as I said before, it's really important to define an effective and ambitious information campaigns to communicate the project, to communicate the outcomes, and of course, here is crucial to identify the appropriate channels to raise citizen awareness. And this is the process that we have followed, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Elena. That was fantastic. So we have seen also that there is another challenge, is how to orchestrate the application of multiple climate services towards a coherent storylines that explain what the city aims to achieve and how. Brilliant. So we have a few minutes for questions. So I'm looking for Asun first, Then Paco second, and let's take another question if there is. Yes, Judith, then third one. If I can kindly ask you to make a short question, that will allow the panelists to answer shortly.
Very curious to hear from you just to a little bit more granularity on the topic of integration of multiple priorities and how this translates into the absolute requirement of data interoperability. To me, this seems like you have presented both technical and non-technical criteria that is going to be very important for us as we work towards the standardization of climate services.
Thank you, Asun. Paco?
Thanks for the speech that you have given. Your information is very much oriented towards the adaptation needs or adaptation practices. My question is, if you could dream of the climate services that you would like to get, what would be the list of things that you would like to ask the climate services community to provide you with? So dream of and make a list of presents that you would like to get from climate services.
Thank you, Paco. Judith? Judith over there.
Yes, thanks for the very nice presentations. I noticed that I think for all three presentations, the citizens come last. So you find out everything and then you start creating awareness. But would it be also an option to start with the citizens and how they experience it?
Perfect. Thank you very much. Just to help you to summarize, Asun is asking multiple priorities and multiple data, what technical, not technical criteria should be applied and how? Paco is asking for your wish list of climate services or things in order to realize that. And Judith is, why don't we start with citizen first? So let's take it from Elena first, the other order.
I think I remember the answer.
Okay.
In terms of climate change, I think it's really important to define the climate services to be used tailored to the risk that we have identified, and then we have to select the different data available. It's a complicated task in the case of municipalities like Logroño, because finally we have to find different resources of data, and maybe this requires a process of standardization. Maybe it could be easier to identify in a more correct way what are the most valuable data to be used. But thanks to the definition of the tools itself, we can identify the data to be used. But we need the support of, in this case, our city liaison to identify this data and to include in the climate services. It's a complicated task for us because we don't have experience to do that, but we try to do our best thanks to the knowledge that City Liaison has.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Thank you. Nieves?
I think that there were all of them very interesting questions, and first of all, I will like to come to the last one because I think that it maybe because for me it was really focused on the user needs, on the municipality needs. But it's true somehow that we focus on the municipality needs, but it was a further step to communicate to the citizens. So I think what you mean, that is, should we communicate from the very beginning what we aim to do? So in some of the cities, this has been done because, for example, Elena has explained these impact chain diagrams. These diagrams were developed at I think that this was during I think that was 4th month of the project that we do this workshop with different stakeholders and also citizens, so that we can combine different type of impacts from their experience. And it was really interesting workshop, and these workshops are being replicated in considering what were the impacts there and how we are providing solutions to those. So at least in some of the cities, there have been a continuously co-creation, and exactly, it's like, it's not a linear way to engage, but a linear way to say which are your needs, how you are experiencing the climate change. And this is why in Logroño, the climate story somehow want to reflect also this through the personas. And indeed, even the climate story has been validated in those workshops. And it was a fantastic story because we built the climate story with in a very positive way. In one of the workshops in Logroño, one person was saying, but the reality is not like that. There is you have not even considered a negacionista, the nihilist,
Right.
and they were saying, why you don't add in the history such a persona so
Right.
that he can, you can provide arguments regarding that. So I think that in some we have tried to validate not the tools and the climate stories with the citizens, but it's true that it's very complex.
Fantastic.
It's really complex.
Yep.
And regarding the question of Paco, I think that is really difficult because we dream also from our perspective. So there are for me that I am more on the scientific part. Most of the times I dream with this intelligence on the data, but I think that there is also other dreams that came from the city, let's say, priorities and needs, and it's more related with this business intelligence. How can I have a climate service that support my business, my decisions in a simple way? So I think that later on, I think that also the colleagues from Provide are explaining also other type of climate services, and I think that which is great is to share those, because together we can dream bigger, but starting from small. So I think that let's start doing things and think bigger, but start doing things that are small, but support decisions in the cities.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. And Simone?
It's about
Which one? As on integration of the multiple priorities data, technical, not technical criteria. Paco, wish list of climate, whatever you wish to have in order to achieve your goals. Judith, citizen first, which is the case in Milan, I guess.
I start from the citizen. For us, the citizen awareness is a part of the Iron Climate Plan. So is a pillar, one of the main pillars. And we have the assembly, the Citizen and Permanent Assembly, and through the project we provide innovative tool for citizen engagement, because you need to stimulate citizens, but at the same time ask them what is the dream of them, no? So for that, the contribution of the citizen in the Iron Climate Plan is crucial for the city of Milano, and we, through Reach Out Climate Story, we provide scientific data, we show tools, and we are, at the same time, we can test it to the citizen in order to understand if them really understand the data services and the tool. Of course, as you said, as we see the story of Logroño, there are some. We try with the climate story to talk to the heart of the people, no? And for example, the story of Milano is a story about Ambrogio, the grandfather, and Gaia, that is a child 5 years old, and play with the story with the life of Ambrogio and the life, the future of Gaia, we can assess almost 100 years of climate in Milano and weather, how changed the weather, and this is very important. At the same time, we try to stimulate citizens also with the activity of citizen science. But this is a part much more related to the air quality. That is a part of the, and we engage students at school because, as you know, Milano has faced the air quality problem.
Sure. Yes. Thank you very much, Simona. Thank you. Thanks to our distinguished panelists. Thank you for your question. I think we will move on. Please join me in thanking our panelists. It seems, Paco, that the question is, the wish list is open-ended, so never ending. But it's interesting that we came across this citizen. I mean, we look at the city administration as our partner for co-designing, but they need also to mobilize citizens to co-design their requirements, which is, so the city is in the middle, boundary organization. So we have now a series of pitch presentations that will include and introduce the Word Cafe that we will have as next session after the coffee break. So I kindly invite our pitch presenters, and that's Eva Pederewska from the Center for EU Transport Projects. Eva, are you with us? Yeah, please take the floor. And then Quintin from Climate Analytics. Yes, please join us. And Stefano Balli from Ecosistema. So you have nice application, nice topics to share. You have 5 minutes to introduce the topics that will be discussed at the Word Cafe. And I would start with Eva. Eva, would you like to take the floor? As you wish. You might come here, right?
So, buongiorno. My name is Eva Pederewska. I'm from Poland. I work for the Center for European Union Transport Projects. It's a governmental agency. We are under 2 ministries, Ministry of Transport and Ministry for Regional Funds. And yeah, the ministry are changing their names very frequently. So, what we do is to assess, evaluate projects from transport sector that apply for the EU funds, from Cohesion Fund, Recovery Fund, and other financial instruments, also the Connecting Europe Facility instrument. So the projects with which we are dealing are, of course, highways, expressways, railways, harbor areas, ports, airports, but also city projects connected with transport, such as roads in the city, parking lots, and purchase of buses, electric vehicles, and so on. And my job is to evaluate the projects according to the environmental criteria. Because I work in the transport sector for many years, but by heart and by profession, I'm a landscape architecture and environmental scientist. So when it comes with every financial perspective, we have a new challenge, a new environmental criterion. So at the beginning, it was only just compliance with the environmental European law. But in a former financial perspective, a new criterion was introduced, so ability to adapt to climate change. So this was obligatory to every investor to prepare such analysis. And within this financial perspective, it has changed even more because we have additional criterion. Also, compliance with the NSH principle. For those who are not familiar with it, it's a do no significant harm principle. And you have to prove that the project doesn't make any significant harm to 6 environmental goals. And the first 2 environmental goals refer to the first one refers to climate neutrality, and the second one, adaptation to climate change. So every investor has to prepare such analysis. In the previous financial perspective, investors followed different methodologies.
It could be analysis in the form of descriptive form, in the form of a table, or in many cases, really complicated mathematic formulas, as you can see here. And in this financial perspective, it was obligation to follow the methodology described in the European Commission technical guidance on how to prove that the project, the infrastructure, the purchased vehicles are climate neutral and are adapted to possible climate hazards. And what is important is that the investors, of course, did those analyses mostly as a part of feasibility study, but the result was always that the infrastructure is already adapted, doesn't need any adaptation measures, because we are following the technical norms, the obligation in some technical regulations, which for sure are already prepared. And that as it was mentioned yesterday, there is a huge responsibility on the designers. And every change according to the something what is obligatory for everybody is connected with additional financial resources. So as everything starts from the tender procedure, it's up to investor to draft the tender documentation in such a way that the climate proofing analyses are actually real and not just in paper. What are the good practices that I have observed? Is that, first of all, finally there is a change of approach of investors toward the climate change analysis. So I conduct also a lot of workshops for our investors on how to make the analysis. And now I can see that they understand the need more, but mostly, of course, because the climate hazards are more visible nowadays. So it's good that they started also to analyze climate risks, not only during the implementation phase, but also during the construction phase. There is a better access to climate data. We have our Climata 2 portal, where you can find special information specific for each region, and also the most typical climate hazards for each sector. So this is very helpful for the beneficiaries. And some major beneficiaries, for example, our railway national company, is having a special database of all major accidents that happen due to climate hazards. So this is very useful to design future adaptation measures, because then they also know what is efficient and what is not. And introducing of nature-based solution, it is also something, I'm talking too long.
1 minute.
Okay. So the last slide, challenges. So again, this technical guidance, of course, it's something really useful in my opinion, but it's a challenge, because the investor have to conduct the, I'm stressed now. But I will try to forget that you're standing behind. So because the investor is supposed to prepare the analysis not only for this project itself, but to the project in 4 aspects. So first of all, the project, then the processes, for example, when it comes to roads, so how the climate hazards will not only affect the road itself, the surface, etc., but also the processes, the transport processes, the transport links, the several also aspects that are related to maintenance of the infrastructure. So it's a very complex analysis. Another challenge is introducing climate change to national legislation. And as we talked yesterday, standardization is good, and I like tables, I like standardization, but it really depends on the awareness, because of course, climate proofing is required in EIA processes. So every EIA report in every country has such a chapter. But it can be a really very general information. And in my opinion, the climate adaptation should be obligatory in construction law, not in environmental law, because it should refer to any type of project. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Eva, and I really apologize. This is a sort of, I learned that soft power. You simply get closer to the speaker as the time passes by, and thank you. I apologize for disturbing. Quentin, would you like to take the floor and introduce your dashboard, risk dashboard, which is similar to the Reach Out and Climax, but we are looking forward to learn more.
Thanks a lot. Hi, everyone. Good morning. I'm Quentin Lejeune from the think tank Climate Analytics, so Research and Policy Institute based in Berlin. I'm here together with my colleague Sylvia Schmidt, who will be leading the World Cafe activity just afterwards. And this presentation has two parts. So the first one is we present a tool, online tool that we developed as part of a Provide project. So it's a project funded by the Europe Commission, Horizon 2020. Called the Provide Climate Risk Dashboard, and then as part of this Provide project, we also developed some climate services for urban adaptation. So to start with the Provide Climate Risk Dashboard, it's actually a public database to visualize and access global to local climate impacts depending on mitigation outcomes. The version 1 is accessible online since the end of January, and the version 2, so you can see the link here on the screen. The version 2 is to be launched in September 2024, so this year. Essentially what we do on the tool, the Climate Risk Dashboard, is that you can visualize impact projections across scales and sectors. So we show graphs like our time series or maps of impacts, or graphs showing the fraction of risks that is avoidable versus via mitigation versus the fraction of risk that is unavoidable. So you have time series which ends here for different sectors, as I said. For terrestrial climate in countries, you have an example here on the screen, or for marine climate in exclusive economic zones of countries that have access to the sea. Or also, and that's most relevant for this session here, projections of heat stress in 140 cities around the world, such as here for Bologna. Everything is downloadable and freely accessible. And what we'll add in this year are data on terrestrial biodiversity across the world, glacier loss across the world, except Antarctica, and also loss of sleep due to heat stress in those 140 cities. We do this for the latest generation of scenarios from the IPCC working with 3, so working on mitigation. So we don't do this for SSP scenarios or RCP scenarios so much that are classically used, but more for scenarios that are developed by the IPCC working with 3 on mitigation, so that are more policy relevant, so they're aligned with implementing climate policies or NDCs from countries. And also for overshoot pathways, so pathways in which global mean temperature exceeds the goal of Paris Agreement, then peaks and potentially declines below those levels. And they can be rapidly updated because they have been generated mostly with lightweight emulators, climate model emulators. So we also have an explainer bringing explanation on greenhouse gas emission scenarios, so this key concept for in climate science. Now I'm moving to what's most relevant for this session, so the climate services for urban adaptation practitioners that we develop as part of a project. Essentially, what we do here, we work with case study cities, so we have 5 case study cities in the project, and one of them is Berlin, and we completed here the activities, so I will focus on that one here. We start with the first order hazard assessment using the climate risk dashboard. I showed the map for Bologna before. Here's a map for changes in days with moderate heat stress per year in Berlin. At 100-meter resolution. So we start with this assessment here, and then we complement this with simulations down to 1-meter resolution for a very hot day. And you can see here a map of Berlin and the heat stress, and a square in the north and a square rather in the southwest. And you can see here in the north, as well as here in the south, how the changes in urban fabric, variations in urban fabric, but also variations in green spaces can actually influence the heat stress at very high resolution. So that allows actually this also to combine this work with urban planning work. So we work with urban planners in a consortium, and they're trying to see how climate development projects, which ones are most actually climate resilient. For example, the city of Berlin wanted to develop an area, and they made a proposal for an ensemble of buildings of 40 to 45,000 square meters for including housing facilities, sports facilities, a school of the public facilities. And then for each proposal, we can actually model what is the effect on heat stress at very high resolution. So we can check, I'm not sure you see very well on the screen, but you have different ensemble of buildings that have been drawn, and you can see actually that the one on the right is the one that, due to the shape of the buildings, the geometries, the height, as well as the shading and the trees and green spaces that you can add in between, is the one that reduces heat stress the most. And what you can check also, because you go to very high resolution, is what is the effectiveness of single nature-based solutions or a combination of nature-based solutions at reducing heat stress. So directly here, addressing some needs of the stakeholders at the municipal levels, and proposing solutions as well. So here are some questions that we would like to discuss during the World Café to follow up on this example. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Quentin. That was really nice overview of, and we are looking forward to the World Café, all 3 World Café tables presented here. Let's move to Stefano. Stefano will talk about the Safer Places platform, and this is another platform and tool that is interesting to explore.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks, Jaro, for inviting us. My name is Stefano. I'm the CEO and founder of Ecosistema. And today I present Safer Places. It's a climate service that exploits health observation data, artificial intelligence models for providing what we call flood risk intelligence in urban area. So the origin of Safer Places starts from a EU-funded research project funded by IIT Climate Kick, and we work with several research centers in the university, and now we are aiming to develop a commercial product that will be able to support cities in reaching resilience towards flood events. And so when we started our journey, we had this question in mind: are our city ready to face the next flood event? So unfortunately, recent catastrophes show and tell us that we are not ready. I'm sure that most of you remember the big flood event that hit Emilia-Romagna region in May 2023. This is an image from Faenza. And the flood event cost more than 8 billion euro of damages for our region. So we believe that the key for making our city more resilient is the availability of knowledge and what we call in flood risk intelligence. And flood risk intelligence is the capability to predict and to map at high resolution, building by building, the flood risk. So flood risk data at high resolution are not available at global scale. So most of the cities are not covered by maps at high resolution. And in order to produce these maps, you need complex tools. So hydrodynamic models that are cost and time expensive. And if the data are available, usually they just represent a static view of the situation. So you are not able to simulate the effect, for example, of the adaptation measures. So the solution that we have created is a cloud web application. It's a cloud application. You don't need to install any software locally. And you can activate the service for whatever cities worldwide. So we have a global coverage, and you can follow in 5 easy steps the activation in whatever cities in the world. And we are covering the 3 types of floods: pluvial, fluvial, and coastal. So this is one of our case studies, one of the main. We have the municipality of Rimini exploit the Safer Places platform to design, for example, a big regeneration urban plan. They redesign the Sea Promenade, and they build up an artificial dune in order to protect the city from future coastal flood events. So they use the platform to define the optimal elevation of the barriers, also looking to climate scenarios. They are mixed up. So if you are curious to learn more about the technology behind Safer Places, so the 3 pillars, the digital twin, our models, and the cloud scalable architecture that we have created, we can discuss later on during the café. and you will learn how to use the platform to design mitigation and adaptation measures like barriers, like a green roof, storage tanks, or changing the permeability of the city. Yeah, the last slide I would like to, sorry, yeah. So another application and a success story of Safer Places was, unfortunately, during the big flood event that hit Emilia-Romagna. Another application is the early warning. So we are working, for example, with civil protection for flood rapid mapping to support them in predicting the flooded area and supporting the operation for the displacement of the people. This was a map in Cesena. We provide to them before, several hours before the event happens, and they use the map to alert and early warning the population. So I hope you will be interested to learn more, and see you later in the cafe. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Stefano. That was brilliant. So what was the height after Parco Mare? 2 meter 83 centimeters, is it correct? Right? Yeah, good, brilliant. Nice. So we still have a few minutes, actually 15 minutes for discussion. If you would like to ask to our pitch presenter some more details, or we can also include our previous panelists. If you have some urgent question to be asked to the previous panelists, please feel free to pose them now. So I'm looking for somebody who would like to ask question. Yeah, please. This is one. Anyone else? Yeah, Paco, second. And do we have another one? Yes. So let's take a bench of 3 questions and then we continue. Right.
Thank you for the nice presentations. I would have a question to the first, to the second for the risk maps. If you could tell me more about what kind of risks that this portal is displaying, and some applications that we can use the portal for. And for Stefano, I would have a question. Would your platform be usable for predicting flood events rather than assessing just the mitigation, just so kind of a dynamic flood predictions? Thank you.
Thank you. Paco?
Thanks very much. Very interesting. It's more a comment to something that Eva mentioned. There are standards already for climate adaptation. I think it's important that those involved in the mission become familiar with those standards. Jorge Paz here can tell everyone a bit more about what those standards are really telling and what they imply. But the standards for climate services are going to happen anyway. So there is a mandate already from DG Clima to make those standards, and Climate Europe 2 is in the middle of that. So it's very important that everyone here becomes aware that Climate Europe 2 is your path towards having a voice in the formulation of those standards. Otherwise, by the time the standards are set, it will be done. So it will be too late. So it's your opportunity now, everyone, the community here, to really make a difference there.
Thank you very much, Paco. And there was one question over there.
Thank you. No, I also like to follow on what Eva said at a certain point, because it's been, the need to include this during the tender stages of infrastructures, because this is something that I've been following for 10 years, the implementation of Envision, that is a standard for sustainability of infrastructures born in the United States, and now it's going abroad. And the effort that was made there was actually really to try to get it adopted in the tender stages of the, for the infrastructure. So the question for you is, do you have any example of this happening right now in, your world?
Thank you very much. So we have 3 set of questions. 2 are to Quentin and Stefano, and one is to Quentin and Stefano, and 2 comments to Eva. Shall we start with Eva? Eva? Right. So Paco is mentioning, be aware that the Climate Europe 2 is co-developing climate services. This project, this community can be your voice. And then we have a question, I think it's Roberto, right? Yeah. Can you make some examples, all right? How the...
When it comes to the examples, the only examples I met were from the projects prepared by the cities. I think that cities are more educated, more aware of the importance of climate adaptation. Also because the cities develop the climate adaptation strategies, they develop SUMPs, the strategic urban mobility plans, where those adaptation issues are emphasized. So, for example, there was a reconstruction of a road in Warsaw that was located close to the river, and 1 meter wall was constructed close to the road just to prevent flooding when there is a high level of water. But so far there is really a very few examples of such specially dedicated adaptation measures.
Brilliant, thank you. So there is also a new directive in force from last year, the resilience entities, where the infrastructure operator have to develop the risk assessment. This is another application field for climate services and also a potential client for many of you. Brilliant. And then Quentin and Stefano. So what risk can your portal display? And Stefano, is your portal amendable to predicting the floods?
Yeah, so a tentative answer to the first speaker. So what risk are we showing?
Yeah.
When we talk about risks, so risks can be understood different ways by different communities, but let's say it could be IPCC definitions like the overlay between hazard, exposure, vulnerability, and in different components of the Provide project that we work on, we look at all of these components. So we decided just to call this Provide Climate Risk, just to be succinct. But basically, what you can find on these portal or projections of, can be changes in the hazards over time, such as changes in climate variables, such as changes in marine climate variables, but also more in impacts, such as changes in glaciers, glacier loss, glacier area, glacier volume, which will be added. Also, what will be added on species richness remaining across the world. So this is not in there yet, so don't look for it yet, but it will be included hopefully in the next month. So we're looking at both, the hazard as well as the impacts on ecosystems, for example, or on other natural systems, or even on human systems, which we'll have a look at. So this is from the already available tool, which is rather taking a global to local perspective. And then we have these climate services targeted at urban practitioners that I've presented in the second part of the presentation, where we really look at heat stress, so wet bulb globe temperature, if that says something. So really, looking at temperature and humidity index to quantify heat stress, and also taking into account wind speed, direction, as well as solar radiation. And these are the maps that will be adding in there, and at very high resolution. And what will be happening afterwards is we try to combine this with information on vulnerability at city scale for some specific cities to see how these conflate and how heat stress affects more or less particularly specific layers of population that are more or less vulnerable.
Thank you. And Stefano.
Thanks, Matteo, for the question. Yes, one of the innovations that we aim to bring with Safer Places is the capability to deploy flood maps and flood risk data in real time, and to be flexible, so to be able to simulate both historical scenario, climate projection, but we can even support in real-time events. So, for example, we are discussing now a project with the municipality of Venice where we'll integrate and feed as an input the weather forecast provided by Cosmolami model, and we are able to transform the rainfall forecast into pluvial flood other maps. So this is possible thanks to the technology that is pretty fast and deploy results in few minutes, and then you have the maps take decision also in real time. Thank you.
Thank you, Stefano. Brilliant. So unless there is another urgent question, I would say we keep all the other questions for the World Cafe. Thank you very much for our panelists. So let me explain what will happen next. So first of all, we will have the coffee break, and the coffee break is connected to marketplace activities. So you might grab a cup of coffee and visit several stands. There are a number of interesting activities out there, and I would really invite you to explore those. After the coffee break, there will be again a second round of World Cafe tables. We will have in this room 5 tables. One is dedicated to Nieves, Elena, and Simone. You might go there. This is the table 1. You can explore what else has been done in Milan or Logroño and how it's useful. Another table is dedicated to the platform that Stefano has presented briefly, so you can go to the table 2. Table 3 will feature a Climate Europe 2 activity that will be run by Per Kaspersen. Per, are you with us? Yes, over there. Thank you. Then table 4, we will have the climate analytics that Quentin anticipated will be run by his colleague Sylvia. And table 5 will be run by Veronica from SimCC over there. And she will be speaking about the risk management capabilities, how to assess them, and why it's important for building the enabling conditions. But we will have also very important activities in the breakout room, and I would like to ask Andreas. Andreas, would you like to share a few thoughts on that? So that will be in the room here on the left side. And afterwards, Miriana, would you like also to say a few words about the cube, right? I said after Andreas, I give you 1 or 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Andreas Verburg from GEREX, from the Climate Service Center in Germany, and jointly with Grit Martinez, who is there, from the Ecologic Institute, Werner Kraus, from the University of Bremen, Kevin Ramirez, he is over there, from Climate Kick, and Harialas Lucas, from the Climate Data Factory. We organized the breakout group on how can climate services support decision-making with a special focus, of course, of urban areas. So we want to get with you in a lively discussion on what are your needs, what your experiences using climate services or barriers, what are important issues for you, quality aspects, and all this will take place, as Yao just mentioned, in the breakout room, which is the door to your right up there, which will be opened, and there is a small breakout room, and there we want to have a kind of a fishbowl discussion. We will introduce to you what that is, if you don't know it, and really share with you your views. We want to learn from you as users about your experiences, your needs, your wishes for climate services, for climate adaptation. Thank you.
So quite quickly, I will invite you to join the Climate Capsule in the Marketplace, which is basically the Art and Science project from Center for the Promotion of Science, and it is taking you to 2057, where we didn't tackle climate change appropriately. And you will see a video and a narrative of a man taking you through his experiences, emotions, and everything he's going through in 2057. So I will not have any more spoilers. I will just invite you to join me, and it's a big black box. You will not miss it. Thank you.
So if you wondered what is this big black box, that's what Miriana introduced now. So feel free to explore all the activities that are around, right? Just to remind you, the World Cafe works like there is a discussion around the table for 30, 35 minutes, then take a little bit break, then move to another table. If it wasn't clear yesterday, please keep it in mind. The table is renewing every 30-35 minutes. So with that, and I'm pleased to save you 5 minutes of this session. Please use that. There's coffee outside, a number of activities, and we will be back after the lunch for the next session on water challenges. Thank you very much.